I actually formed or set up Shannon Coil Springs in 1978, which is so long ago now. It's a long, long time ago. And I suppose I had come from a multinational company, and I suppose I was always innovative in my approach to how I worked with that company. And I saw a gap in the market. And the gap in the market, the company I worked for was Krauss & Eimer in Shannon, on the industrial estate. And I always had problems sourcing springs. We had a breakdown. If we didn't have a spare in-house, it could take anything. We didn't have the type of courier service we have today then. You could be down for 2 days with something that would be vital, where you had 60 or 70 people depending on product to either assemble or whatever. And basically, I saw a gap in the market. And way back then, and I suppose to an extent in Ireland in particular, marketing and market surveys would have been fairly new. But I actually, on my lunch hours, I went round all of the companies in the industrial estate and discovered that quite a few of them had the same problem. So I saw a gap in the market. So I set Shannon Coil Springs up. And I haven't looked back since. I've looked up and I've looked down, I've looked sideways, and I've been clobbered quite a few times. But I haven't looked back. I've never regretted it. And basically, it has allowed me, I suppose, what's very important to me in my life, and that is that, I love innovation. I love doing things. I love being able to look at something and say, God, there's a business in that, And so, from that point of view, Shannon Coil Springs literally, and it had to, reinvented itself probably every 5 years. At one stage, we had Krups, who were just across the road from us, had 1,200 workers. We're taking 80% of our product. And basically, were dictating to us the type of prices we could get, and kept hammering us down. And at one stage, I looked at it and I said, look, we're running very fast and we're not going too many places. So I actually applied a 40% increase on all their product overnight. Got the order in and sent it back and said, we are imposing a 40% increase in all of our product prices. And of course, they just said, you're just going to lose the business. And I said, yeah, I know that, but it's going to take you 3 months to replace me. And in the meantime, you're going to have to pay me 40% more for everything you get. And lo and behold, it worked. And probably in that period it took them actually 18 months to replace us. And in that 18 months, the company made more money than it had made in the previous 4 years. And I suppose that's innovation as well. But in 1994, the Irish pound went higher than the pound sterling. And again, we had probably close to £1 million sterling in manufacture that was going to the UK. And everything we sent out the door, it was based on the Irish pound having a competitive edge on sterling of about 20%. And that took our margin in, it took a lot of the overhead, and it probably took in a lot of the inefficiencies that we had vis-a-vis the UK. And I looked at the idea of saying, right, okay, we're going to forget about £1 million pound sterling turnover. But, you know, who could do that? It was probably at that stage a third of our entire turnover. So what I did was I got a blank sheet of paper, and this I suppose is relevant to where you guys sit. And I said, how would I set Shannon Coil Springs up now, as opposed to when I did it 15 years ago? You know, everything was ad hoc, got people on board as the company grew, and the expertise that we needed and whatever else, and made massive amounts of mistakes, you know. But obviously the things we did right were, you know, we just made a margin of error that was just below the good things we did, and that kept us alive. So on the basis of looking at the UK market and having a £1 million turnover, I got a blank sheet of paper, literally, and I wrote down, how would I set up a company now, as opposed to how it has evolved for the last 15 years. And I basically then set down exactly, you know, what's the best, the optimum that I can do in this, you know, with this blank sheet of paper. And so I'd been dealing with people in the UK and people in the industry for 15 years, so I knew the good guys, I knew the bad guys, which was more important. So I wrote down 5 names, and I went off and I headhunted them. When I say I headhunted them, I literally got on a plane and visited them where they worked, in their houses or whatever, the 5 of them. And at that stage, the company had a few bob. I tell you, it has lost quite a few bob in the last, since 08, you know. But I set up a manufacturing unit in Preston, in the north of England. It was a small unit, but it was specialising obviously in what we used to do in Limerick. And basically, that unit is now, has 56 people in it. Shannon Coil Springs has 24. But we're very automated, and so is Performance Springs is the name of that company, and if you look it up on the web. And Shannon Microcoil is another one in the group, and I'll just elaborate on that, and I don't want to spend too much time. And I hope the theme of what I'm saying is relevant to the audience, you know. But the 5 people I headhunted, you know, I said to them at the outset, we have X amount of turnover. We lose probably a little bit of it because the toing and froing that will happen between setting this company up and supplying from where we are at the moment, you know, reluctantly actually supplying because we were losing money on it. But those 5 people, I sat them down and I said, look, okay, this is where I want the company to be in 3 years. In 3 years' time. And if you guys achieve this, you can have 24% of the company. And going forward, you can buy the company from me. And this is what you have to achieve to buy the company from me. You haven't achieved it yet because I set the bar quite high. But I can tell you, I should have set the bar a little higher for the 25%, 24% of the company as well. But the reason, obviously, the 24, if any of you are company-wise, you know, 24%, you know, suppression of a minority doesn't come into play unless, you know, you really do something that's really nasty. But basically, it gives me the right to sell the company, and they have to go along with the option. So I did have a little bit of eye on whatever. But in 1995, which was, we were in the throes of you know, still setting the company up in the UK. The market was changing dramatically here as well. You know, people like Krups were downsizing, and Telemecanique were moving out of the country, and all of the people that were manufacturing, even at that stage in '95, were moving out of the country. Even though some of the people that were coming in, like Dell and all the rest of it, were assembling, you know, they were assembling, and I saw in my wisdom that, you know, this type of setup wasn't what we should be looking at. You know, what we're looking at over the last 2 or 3, 4, 5 years is what we should have been looking at then. And the knowledge in the country at that stage, the people that were actually emigrating, were setting up the type of businesses that we're now looking at. You know, the knowledge businesses, the innovative businesses, you know. And I'm sure there are people here that, you know, that will be able to set up this type of business where the knowledge that they have will be what drives their ambition and their and what they set up, you know. In 2004, we patented a wall tie for the building industry. And lo and behold, it actually took about 80% of the market. It was a very simple idea. The market at the time was taking off. It absolutely, over the next, up to 2008, made us a huge amount of money. And it was just an idea. It wasn't just what we were manufacturing, it was the idea behind it. And it actually took, as I said, 80–90% of the market, right up to the crash. But again, in 2005, we looked at the demographics, and it just didn't make sense that we were building almost as many units of housing, and I'm talking about flats and apartments and you name it, as they were building in England, with 15 times the population, and that was in 2005. So at that stage, we did an innovation partnership with UL on, we were looking for something else. We said, you know, wall ties in Shannon Coil Springs was probably 60% of the turnover. And if we had lost that, with the type of setup we had, it would probably sink us. So we did an innovation partnership in UL, and we looked at the medical device industry and bringing our expertise from where we were and what we had been doing for 20 odd years was very relevant to the medical device industry, because we were making springs still. We were doing a lot of innovation, and we were doing flat wire coiling and all the rest of it for endotracheal tubes and all of the other type of requirements for wire in the medical device area, and it's huge, absolutely huge. So we set off on the Shannon Microcoil trail, and basically, as we stand now, Shannon Microcoil is now about 60% of the turnover of the Shannon Coil Springs group. And again, it was innovation. It was looking at what's available, what can we do, where's our expertise, how can we do it, how can we do it better? You know, and basically, any of you that are thinking of setting a business up, that's what you've got to do. You've got to say, how can I do it better? You don't have to invent anything. You look at something, study it. You know, if it's in your expertise, and if it isn't in your expertise, get an expert and let him study it for you and come back to you, and you set a business up on the basis that you are going to do it better, you're going to make some innovation that's going to give you the leadership in the market. Sinead.
So, I'm going to talk to you about Coder Dojo, but I'm going to do it in a vehicle of talking about something else that I think is perhaps a bit closer to what you actually came here today. I understand it's students, people involved in innovation here today. So I want to talk about how do you engineer a productive team? How do you create a creative team, a productive team? I equate the two. And you may think, well, what's that got to do with a bunch of kids that learn programming every week? And I would say that we are producing spontaneous creativity in groups of kids every week. There are kids self-organizing into groups, producing projects and moving in a direction in an entrepreneurial way. And I think that is something to sit up and listen to think about. And why do we want this? We want this experience because it's possibly, to me, I think it's the single most important thing to take place for a human is to interact in his community, to actually do something with the rest of humanity, the rest of his society. So let me go through that then. I'm going to talk about 3 different principles that I've seen at play in Coder Dojo. I'm going to tell you a bit about Coder Dojo, give you some context and so on. But the 3 principles I've seen are direction, interaction, and analysis. So okay. I was sitting there with Michael at the dinner just now, at the lunch just now, and I don't know if he's in the room. It seems he's missed out somewhere. Oh, he's over here. Hey, Michael. And he was saying, you know, well, first off, he said, "What are you lecturing us on?" And I said, "I'm not lecturing. This is a discussion." So if any of you don't like what you're hearing when I'm saying it, please raise your hand and I'll buy you a drink afterwards, because I'm more than happy to hear about what you've got to say. But the second thing he said, which is very important, is that, you know, where in the world today is someone living that doesn't rely on 1, computers, and 2, other people that operate those computers. And there is no one in this room that lives in that way, in a completely independent way. And so if we are not independent, then we must all be interdependent. We must all be relying on each other, and more importantly, on the technology and computers that allow us to run our world today, to survive. So, the direction. Every productive team needs a direction, needs a philosophy, it needs an idea. But more importantly, I think it comes from frustration. As something that is holding you back, a problem that is stopping you from being more productive, more enjoying your world, being happy. And I think this exists for businesses, communities, and in education. Why do we go into a business? Why do we work in a business? And yes, you could say you're working because of money, but I don't think that's always the case. Social psychology shows that motivation does not always rely on financial reward. To an extent, of course. If you've ever seen Maslow's pyramid of needs, obviously we have to cover the bottom tier, which is just looking after financial resources. But once you get to a certain point, which is it's very interesting if we were to talk about the financial crisis and people being paid a lot of money, you know, they don't have any more incentive just because of that money to do a better job. But we go into companies because there is meaning there in some way. With the coils beforehand, there was a genuine innovation need, a need to supply this product, frustration by people that couldn't obtain it, and there was from this frustration was built something that could be profitable in that sense, in a company sense. But what about a community? What about a community that doesn't have any enterprise going on? And there's a frustration there, there's not enough enterprise. Well, you could do what Israel did, where they match funded every single VC that came into the country to fund startup businesses. And in the period of about 5 years, they went to one of the #1 entrepreneurial societies in the world. They've now taken that back, but it doesn't stop the money flowing in from the VCs. Because all the VCs were saying, great, someone's going to support us with these startup companies. It is happening in Ireland as well. I'd say there's a lot of great work being done through EI and so on. But that need to create something in the community, not just the business, but it starts with the community. It could be a community hall, or the Nexus, or a school of some kind. that there's a frustration there that drives you to create something as a community together. And in classrooms, the desire is to learn a subject, or learn something that is holding you back. You're here because you want to learn about how to innovate or how to be entrepreneurs. So how is that manifested in what we've done in Coder Dojo? Well, Bill and James, who founded the movement, they had a frustration. For Bill, the frustration was that he couldn't find people to work in his company as programmers or companies. It's the same over here. There was a 12-month hunt over here for 30 programmers to supply open positions. And that is a huge problem. We need to supply the programmers that play well with others in teams, that can form productive teams, but they are able to work in the companies and in positions that are now being created in our world. And we are not providing that at the moment. So Bill couldn't find them, and James couldn't get the education. So we've got two angles. We've got from the community initiative and the education side, not being provided, no jobs, the education isn't being provided, and from the business side, the employees and the workers aren't there to work. There isn't innovation, there isn't employees that can do the programming. So from this frustration, they got together, they met up. James won an award for hacking an iPod Nano. He's a great friend of mine, and it's really fun to be with him because he's always hacking things. He hacked a kettle one time to turn on when he came in with his phone. It was tracking the geolocation of his phone. Every time he walked in to the kitchen, the kettle went on. The problem was when he forgot to put water in the kettle. But they got together and they set up Coder Dojo. It was just a club for kids to learn code in Cork. And from there, we have gone to 150 locations worldwide. But what was the direction they set? What was the philosophy? They set a very simple philosophy. One rule: be cool. And that rule allows us to cover nearly all operational activity inside the dojo. It allows you to cover when a kid is hitting another kid, or when a kid is talking back to you. And I often say this when a kid is hacking the FBI. But people don't always seem to find that funny, so I'm not going to go into too much about that side of things. So what I would say is though that cybersecurity and individuals that are isolated, kids that are learning in their bedroom away from their community, are very vulnerable, and we need to change that and bring them out of the bedrooms, understand what they're doing, and not leave them alone with things that they don't understand in moral and ethical terms. Yeah, sure, they can get the technology, but it's very important as older generations to assist kids in getting strong moral boundaries and understanding of the world. And that can be done through Coder Dojo as well. We see parents with their kids in the room. But let's just bring it back. I keep wandering off into other directions. Let's bring it back to the direction. The direction is a simple philosophy. Kids in a room learning to code with be cool as the one idea. And that keeps it fun. I like to say fun instead of force. I think sometimes education systems start to tend towards the forceful nature, and I prefer fun. We've devised this name. It's a fun name. It's playdagogy. Instead of pedagogy, we are playing teaching. We're not worshipping an individual. We're worshipping play as a system for learning. And then the promise that's just come out in the last few months. We've worked on this very hard. It was free open learning. You notice there's only 3 words there. All the time, keeping it simple. Perhaps even a great overriding principle. It's one of my own principles. Free, open learning. And we follow that in every dojo that's set up around the country. So, next one is, so we've got direction. Next one is interaction. Now, what is the interactions going on in Coder Dojo? We've got kids coming into a room, and we've got the parents coming with them, and we've got mentors mentoring them. But why didn't that exist before? Well, I think that it's because it needed a brand. It needed a good logo, needed a good name, but it also needed something else. It needed champions. And there's champions and there's leaders in every room. And there's also followers. They're both just as important as each other. To follow something, I'm following Coder Dojo, so I am a follower for that. That doesn't make me any less important if I'm not the leader there. I can be a leader in my own right in other things. So we call them champions. Someone that's willing to stand up. And perhaps at this point, maybe I'll tell a story of one champion, a lady called Shirley. She set up a dojo in a community. And she came to us and said, this is really great, can you help us set it up? And the rule is when people are coming to Bill and James, it's all voluntary done. There's no money involved. I'll go into that at the end maybe briefly. But when people come to us and say, how do we set this up? You know, can you come and set this up for us? This isn't a company. We just say to them, great, this is how we did it one time. You go and do it. And next thing, when they realize that no one is going to do it for them, people become empowered. They get the power to do things themselves and become leaders in their own communities rather than us invading in some way. There's a syndrome, there's a great book called Power of the, I think it's Power of the Flame, it's Samantha Power, sorry, it's, I forget the exact name, but it's Sergio Vieira de Mello, Special Envoy to Iraq, who was killed in 2003. And he talks about the white van syndrome, where the UN goes into a country, brings all its aid, all its white vans, and it completely distorts the local economy. I don't want to see that happen. I would prefer to see an economy and a social economy, the social capital, to stay self-sufficient and be able to provide for itself. You know, the old adage of teach a man to fish and you feed him for his lifetime. You don't just give him fish. So, what's going on? We've got the champion who says, right, okay, I've got to do it myself. Okay, so I go into I find a room, something like this, it's great, and I find the person with the keys, hopefully I've got the keys, and you open it up once a week. And then next thing you find, once a week is important, because regularity, habitual nature of humans, you've got to make sure that you keep doing something over and over again. Even when it doesn't seem to be working at first, you've got to commit and you've got to keep doing it. For long enough for the habits to set in for people to keep coming, and then it has momentum. But you open the room, you sort out the insurance policy. It's very simple. We've got guidelines on how to do that. Most insurance policies cover just opening a room once a week and letting some kids sit quietly. You get a mentor. Now the mentor is the next step. They're a second type of leader. They're not the initial leader, which is the, you know, to my mind there's always three different types. If you ever read a great book called E-Myth by a guy called Michael Gerber. He talks about the three mentalities of entrepreneurs. You've got the entrepreneurial spirit, which is you climb up a tree and you look out and you say, there's a storm coming off over there, and we've got to do something about that storm. And you go run around telling people about it, and you try and make some change happen. Then you've got the managerial, or in this case I would say the mentorial role, which is to organise people, is to lead people on the ground, right there and then, and help to make them efficient and effective. Okay, and then you've got the technician role, according to Michael Gerber. But in our case, we've got students. We've got students in the dojo, but we are not a pedagogy. So we are not one person with the skills to force learning on everyone else. We are individual mentors that can walk into a room and say, hey, we're here. We can help you, we can facilitate your learning, but really everyone here will eventually be a mentor to someone, and everyone here will be a student to someone else. And when I first walked into Coder Dojo, I was a student, and I still am a student, as much as I was a mentor. Yeah, sure, I can show jQuery or HTML or whatever else, web development, but the kids are teaching me, and the way that they ask me questions is teaching me. Every time you become a learner instead of a teacher, it's so much better for everyone. It's just such a wonderful experience to be with a child that actually is giving something back to you by talking to you about something, and it's a two-way conversation, not a one-way conversation. How am I doing for time? Still, we can just fit in the last little bit. So analysis. That's the final section of the three principles I've seen at play: direction, interaction, analysis. Now, analysis applies much more readily in a business environment. You've got metrics, and you've got data, and you've got revenue. Very easy to measure a company by its revenue, or hopefully its profit. But in a social setting, in social entrepreneurship, which we're doing at Coder Dojo, it's much more difficult to do that. And in what's called a decentralized organization, where there's no central control, it's very difficult to standardize any sort of central metrics. We can standardize the principles, but we can't standardize the operation. And so what we do measure is output. People come to us and say, what's the syllabus? What are you teaching? We say, well, whatever anyone wants to teach, whatever anyone wants to learn. But although we can't measure the completion of a syllabus, we can measure the output that is created. So we can say, this child, Harry Moran, has created an app that sold more games than any other game in Ireland for 2 weeks. We could say that his brother, who is autistic, has created a website that is planted, there's a registered charity that plants trees. And he's actually started to do that and got a chance to meet with David Attenborough and all sorts of environmentalists. What a wonderful thing. And that came from inspiration. The inspiration in teams, because they weren't working alone. I was helping to mentor them. We were working together as a team. They were working with their friends. We've got a robot being built in Cork that's being built by 6 different kids. And as far as I know, there's not a single adult mentor helping them, because I don't actually know anyone that actually knows all the specifics of how to help them. So how did that come about? It came about because there was direction, there was interaction in the right way, in the right place, and there was some analysis of going on. Someone saying, what are you doing? That's so cool. That's really cool, guys. And that's simple enough as analysis. Just in the more broad sense, just saying, what are you doing? That's a fantastic analysis in a very simple sense. But, of course, people want, as a Western mind, we want more analytics than that. We want more metrics than that. So we are working on other things. Tomorrow I will be doing a live video link with New York Coder Dojo, where a guy called John, I forget his surname, he's one of the founders of jQuery, which, if you don't know, is a very powerful language on the web. He's actually going to be working with some kids in New York to develop Khan Academy. I don't know if you've heard of Khan Academy, but Khan Academy is a fantastic tool online. It actually teaches mathematics, but now computer science. But more importantly, what people miss, the teaching is fantastic on there. Standardized, great videos, really help you to learn, and more importantly, you can pause every time you don't understand something and go back over it. So you don't have to worry about embarrassment of just not understanding something like 50 times in a row. You can just watch it 50 times until you get it. But that's only minor compared to what they've done with the statistics side. Most people might think, oh, Jesus, statistics, that's just horrible. But actually, it's amazing. You should definitely check it out. Khan Academy, there's a great dependency map, so you can actually see, if I want to learn calculus, I have to start up here, learn how to count, then how to do algebra, and so on. And you can actually see the outline of things dependent on each other, if you want to get to this point here, which a lot of basic courses don't do. But more importantly than that, as I say, is the statistics. And I can go in there and mentor my younger sister, and she is signed into the system, I'm signed into the system. I can see the timeline of how she's completing different problems, how long she's spending, the exact problem she had spent a long time with, what the answer she gave, and I can assess exactly where the holes are in her knowledge. And I can actually see where she's not understanding something. And then I can also see metrics over time. I can actually pull out exact things and say, okay, now we're going to work on this specific thing with you. And this is the future of learning, I think. A mixture of fun environments and also highly specified, highly exact statistical analysis that can be completed by machines, by computers, to see where people are going wrong. And so we're going to be implementing this in Coder Dojo, seeing how kids respond to actually working with a computerized layout, working with their friends. Then we can assess the data and we can actually get some results and actually see what kids are learning and what they're not learning. I don't see this happening anywhere else in the world, what we're doing at Coder Dojo. I'm waiting for someone to tell me differently. Because I'm following this because I, as a rational individual, have looked around, seen the problems in the world, decided how can I help the most. There's a huge problem where we don't have enough programmers, we're not learning how to use computers, and that is the biggest thing I think that can help us in the 21st century. If we know how to use computers and we understand technology, we can use it to do amazing things. I mean, who here would have believed the things you could achieve with Facebook, or Google, or even just a PC if you're old enough? This is powerful stuff, and there's more coming, but only coming and only in the right way if we actually understand it. We understand how to use it and how to make it work for us and how to build it. So, I'll finish my talk pretty much there, but I'll say one last thing. I said the same thing last time when I was in UL. We are going to be about 10 billion people on this planet by about 2050. I don't know how we are going to survive if we don't have programmers that play well with others, as in we engineer teams that are creative and productive. And there's no one doing that today. The only people I see doing that today are Coder Dojo. So please, if you are someone that has access to a room or children, please get them involved. Please open up the room and get one started. You can see more information on the website at coderdojo.com. And if you've got any questions, I'll be on discussion panels, I think, afterwards, and I'll be hanging around, so I'll answer any questions. There's no money involved. It's a money-free environment. We're just doing it for social good. I make money off being a software engineer. So yeah, just go out, start a Coder Dojo, get involved in one. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay folks, that's my business there called the Discovery Partnership. We're an organisational development and training and management development company. We're very much into the whole area of strategic planning and thinking and so on, and working with lots of SMEs. I think I've lost count of the number of SMEs that I've actually put through my hands this year. It must be well into the 200s. Either that is sitting down talking to them and going through their plans and their ideas, or doing one-to-one mentoring, or doing acting as wet nurse, or putting my hand around and saying you'll be okay, don't worry about it, we'll take you through, you'll be fine. So what I'd like to do today is just give you a little bit of insight into, I suppose, maybe just draw from that practical experience that I've had. Just my own background has been, so I'm going to admit two things first of all, three things maybe. One, I'm a chartered accountant, so please forgive that. Okay. Number two, I escaped from chartered accountancy, so that's good, I guess.
They're still hunting for you.
What's that?
They're still hunting for you.
They're still hunting for you. I got away. And three, I'm actually from Cork, so it's okay. So, what's that? What's that? Okay, so guys, I saw a quote not too long ago from a story about Albert Einstein, right? And that's what he actually did, right? When he was a professor, does anybody know? I think he was a professor in the UK at one stage, right? And he was going back over through the quad, and his assistant came up to him and he said, "Listen, do you realise," he said, the paper that you set again this year is the same year, word for word, third year in a row." You know, he was asked why. But what do you think he said? What do you think his answer was?
No students?
Different students.
Because there's different ways to answer it.
No, well, here's the answer. He says the answers were different. Do you get that? Okay, so in 2012, guys, right, and in 2013, I can tell you, right, that the answers to questions about SMEs and setting up businesses in 2013, the questions are the same. People want to buy things and people want to go off and buy services and innovative things and so on. But the answers are different, and you've got to think totally differently in 2013 that you did. I had a career, God forgive me, in banking for about from 1980 to mid-80s, and I thought to myself, gee, do I want to actually live my life for the rest of my life in an institution? You know, who wants to live in an institution? Anyway, but I felt no, I didn't want to do it. And since then, I guess, you know, I've not only, I suppose, had different careers, but or different jobs, but I've had completely different careers. And one of the things that I would say to you is that whatever you're planning on doing and whatever you're thinking of doing from now on, this is a great opportunity for you guys. And as I say, I do a lot of work with programs where people are kind of, you know, coming out of situations like the Dells of the world and so on, where you may be shocked and be wondering what the heck am I actually going to do. With the great respect to Dell, you know, Dell, we went in there recently to have a look at it, and it's an absolutely marvellous what they're doing now, but it's completely different to what they did in the past. So the question is, guys, that's going to create a challenge for everybody. If I was to kind of ask you a question and say to yourself, and say, how many people here, hands up now, and I mean even guests and so on, how many people here are self-employed? Okay, if I ask the question again and ask you to really think about that question, how many people here are self-employed? How many people are self-employed? Everybody? Everybody put your hand up, right? Everybody, please, actually psychologically, put your hand up. Just for the sake of putting your bloody hand up, right? To say that Nanny and Daddy ain't looking after me anymore. I am self-employed, right? The day you say to yourself, I am self-employed, right? Irrespective of whether you plan to work in an institution like a hotel, or UL, or Dell, or whatever like that, right? It's the attitude of self-employed guys are the people that are going to succeed in 2013 from now on. The world of work has changed. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
And it ain't going back, okay? So who are the people, therefore, that are actually going to survive in 2013 and 14? The people with the attitude of self-employed, right? What's the attitude of self-employed? Shout them out to me.
Survival.
Survival. What else do they do? What are traditional self-employed people great at? Adapting. Huh? Multitasking.
Thinking on their feet.
Thinking on their feet. What else?
Looking at opportunity.
Looking for opportunity. What else?
Confident.
What is it?
Confident.
Confident.
Creativity.
Creativity.
Talking.
What is it?
Talking.
Talking. What else?
Determination.
Determination. Where does the book stop? Where does the book stop? The book stops with you, right? Okay. And the concept, guys, of so therefore, and would you agree, therefore, guys, that the world of work and therefore having a job for life is dead?
Yes.
Would you? Okay. So can we park that in the bin, right? So therefore, from now on, guys, you effectively are the chief executive of what's your name? Catherine Mott. Catherine Conlon Inc. Right?
Yeah.
Chief Executive Officer. Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
Chief Cook, Bottle Washer, Prospector, Innovator, Creator, and all the things that these people just said a while ago. Because what you were describing, guys, a while ago is exactly what you need to do. Now, so how do you therefore get, guys, a great idea? I think everybody should, in the world really now in 2012 and 2013, should have a big hat up with themselves, and the word across it should be problem solver. Because that's what you are. If you don't see yourself as a problem solver, if you don't see yourself as somebody that somebody is going to pay you money to do something, because here's okay. I've teed you up now a second. How many people here are in sales? Wait, even if it's only to get the kids to clean their bedroom, you know? Or you were all in sales. When you go in to do a job interview, when you try to set yourself apart, when you're working in university and you got to go to the president and we need funding, you're selling. So, right? So unless you understand the whole sales area, right? So therefore, guys, you're fixing a problem. And right, and the problems can be all around you. You travel abroad, you can see things, you can see them everywhere. I mean, it's amazing. I love these downturns in the economy. Do you know why? Because we became a nation of absolute soft order takers, right? That's all we were, order takers, and we've actually lost, quite honestly, I can tell you this, we've lost the whole kind of concept of having to actually go out, innovate, create a job, create something that people want to sell, and then go off and see if we can prospect, make the damn thing, fix it, tweak it, fail, screw it up, turn up, and then go off and see if we can sell it, and then go off and get money for it, and then reinvest and so on. Okay? And the number of people, guys, that I see coming across my desk, and the people that I see innovating and sitting down across my desk, talking all day, every day about ideas and so on, and they are just, it's fantastic, because you see, in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, you know, there was construction, and everybody kind of sat around doing all this kind of rubbishy kind of stuff. I mean, you can see it all around, okay? But so we've lost this innovation and creativity. And this is the thing, guys, that's going to get Ireland out of the mire, right? In fact, I was at a breakfast briefing the other morning on Friday in Cork, Simon Coveney, and I was at the Chamber of Commerce dinner on Friday over in the Strand Hotel, and it was as if the script was the same from Michael Noonan and Simon Coveney. They both said, watch this space in relation to the budget, because they are going to seriously promote SMEs. Now, what they're going to do, I just don't know. But all I know is that when I'm dealing with SMEs at the moment, I'm directing them now to Richard Bruton's website on microfinance and this whole credit guarantee scheme. So the money is out there, right? The banks aren't probably lending, you will say, okay? But if you believe the banks aren't lending, I'll sure as hell they ain't lending. If you believe the banks are lending, they are lending. Okay, and I'm telling you that they are. They have to lend. And the enterprise boards and so on are out there with all these funds, and it's a matter of you guys. No, thanks be to God as well, I would say that the business plans that are now going into banks and are now going into enterprise boards and leader companies and so on are now robust. There's no bull. They've stress tested them, they've checked them, they've researched them, okay? So guys, so how therefore do you think, are you therefore going to use this opportunity? Because I think this, you can say, guys, that where you are right now, I mean, how many people are working, they have roles, okay, well done, great, and so on, right? But you know, is there a guarantee tomorrow that you'll have it? No, or next week or next year. So therefore, I want you to think about plan B. I want you to think about having maybe options for yourself, right? So I suppose all great entrepreneurs have a sense of kind of curiosity. They're always looking for something. There's this great website that I like there, this trendwatching.com, if you might have a look at it. It just kind of tells you where the it kind of tells you where things are going. In fact, here's actually a great story. I just thought of a story there. Did anybody ever hear of a guy called Wayne Gretzky?
Yeah.
I'm sure you did. You know who is he? Hockey player, great hockey player, right? When he wrote his autobiography afterwards, he was a prolific goal scorer. He was probably one of the best, ice hockey players in the world, right? But there was one piece in his book that he said. It was kind of an interviewee kind of thing. He was being asked, how come he would score so many goals? And he said that he used to go home after training every day and after matches, and he'd watch the videos of the matches and so on. And he said there was a little penny dropped one day when he was watching a lot of these things, and he said, do you know what? He says, the number of pucks that you fly across in front of the goal, the opposition goal, and there was nobody there to tap it in. Right? Do you understand? So what he said he'd do, he said, counterintuitively, instead of going and chasing after where the puck was going, he said, do you know what? I'm going to run in the opposite direction, and I'm going to run across the face of the goal and see how many times I'll score. Wow. Right? So the question is, guys, you need to start thinking about where the puck is going to be, not chase it. And think about that in your business, right? Think about that story and applying it to your business. Guys, there's no substitute for market research, and there's no reason and there's no excuse in 2012 and coming to 13 why you can't use SurveyMonkey, Facebook, population census, trade journals, and so on. And you got to ask, and guys, I mean, the point is, what do you think the purpose of any business is? Okay, most people most people would say to make money. There's a law of cause and effect for sowing and reaping, and the making the money is the reaping. The cause is probably far more important, right? Why are businesses successful? What's the purpose? The purpose of the business, and it was Tom Peters, and if you ever want to read any kind of management guru, he's probably one of the best. Tom Peters said that the purpose of any business is to attract in customers and to retain them. Get that? Would you agree any old Egypt can get the first sale? Would you agree with that? Okay. If any old Egypt can get the first sale, the question is, will they keep coming back? Will they keep coming back second, third, and fourth, and fifth time? And what I'm suggesting to you guys, right, you got to find out what is it the customers want, right? And you got to go out there and give it to them, and they got to keep coming back, and they got to say, irrespective of whether the price is a little bit high and a little bit kind of, geez, this is a pain paying this, but you know what? It's like the L'Oreal ad, because I'm worth it. You're worth it, I'm going to give. I mean, why do why is Brown Thomas still in existence? You'd think, you know, it should be out of business in the bloody recession, but it's not. It's still as buzzing away as ever. So, just to go back into why people start business, and I'm sure that there could be some of you folks here could be in this situation. Maybe you found yourself unemployed, the business has ceased, divorce, a whole load of reasons and so on, right? In other words, it's probably necessity rather than choice. So what I'm saying to you guys is that, you know, you could have money and so on, and now you have maybe, you're thinking about, do I want to now go back in and maybe try and get a job, or do I want to be, you know, go off and set up business? So let me just talk about you know, I mean, how many people kind of know people who are the traditional entrepreneurs? And would somebody maybe just give me a couple of examples of maybe people that they know, and what are they like? Have they horns over their head, or do they have tails, or what is it? They're human beings, I guess, first of all, let's say that. What else are they? They're what? Obsessed. Okay, alright, because it is an obsession. It is, yeah. What else?
Half mad.
Okay, yeah. When you actually do set up business, yeah. I was in a bank in 1995, and I left a permanent pensionable, and my father said, "What are you doing? Do this." And I said, "I want to be like you." And he said, "Oh, would you just not learn?" So no, but there was something deep down, and now 15 years or 18 years later, yeah, 18 years later, I haven't had a day that I wasn't able to have a hot meal, you know, with beans, but right. And now I guess I'm unemployable, right? Because once you actually make that, and once you just fly off the side of the cliff, and you take off, and if you do screw up and you do fail, which I have done on many occasions, and by the way, failure, guys, is an absolutely critical ingredient for success. If you don't fail, right? If you don't fail, it's not the failure. It's how you react to it. Do you get that? But understand, guys, that you are going to fail, right? And there are some people that go through life, and they've never failed. They got 600 points in their leaving cert, and then they got a big degree, and then they got this, and suddenly then they go and they say, "God, I think that's and it could be the first time in their life that they really failed." But and therefore it's your attitude to failure and so on. So, right, why do you want to start a business, right? And that's a question you should ask yourself. You know, not everybody is suited to it, guys. Not everybody is suited to it. And that is why maybe I'm also kind of suggesting to you that maybe, you know, that if you are risk averse or whatever like that you think about maybe franchising might be an idea. You know, there are plenty kind of franchises, nice franchises, or you might decide, you know what, that you can set up your business, and in order to grow it and expand it, and rather than having lots of employees and paying lots of salaries at the end of the month, you might actually get your business and franchise it. Franchise it itself, turn it into a franchise. You know, that's another way of organising a group business. I was talking to a couple this morning, and that's one of the ideas. They have a fabulous business now, right? But they're saying, you know what? I don't want to take on any more employees. But we know that there are people out there who are really talented, and let's give them a territory. Let them pay to get in, and we'll show them how. Understand? So there are various forms of self-employed, right? But I suppose, guys, traditionally the person that I suppose is the typical entrepreneur sees the opportunity, motivation, drive, and all the things that you just described there a while ago. You know, can get the resources. There's no typical entrepreneur, guys. I've seen them in all shapes, sizes, colours, religions, sexes, and it doesn't matter, right? But there are certain ingredients, I guess, that they have, you know, and I guess. It is an attitude, it is a mindset, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, right? In fact, what you know, you have to keep, I suppose, assessing, you know, and be flexible and open to change, you know, because change is all around us. Change is the constant, right? And being able to stay flexible. What I would also say, guys, is that you have to be an all-rounder. You know, someone who can do all the things, and you just described there a while ago. You know, you've got to be what I like to call the finder, grinder, minder. You know, You have to be, and in fact, some of the people that I see that fail a bit in the whole area of business development from SMEs is the fact that they're not good in all three. In particular, if you're setting up the company of one and you're the chief executive, right? And so on. So what I would say to you is that this grinder mind grinder ability, this ability to when you do fail, this bounce back ability, you know, being able to kind of jump up and get back up and get back on the horse again and say, yeah, screwed up, made a mistake, but you know what? Do you get that? No. What I would say to you guys is that I suppose, let me just share this with you for a second. I guess there's you, and you get up every day, right? And there you are, right? And you have kind of two choices in life, right? You can take. Anybody do Latin in school? Okay, so you know. So what's the word bene mean? Good, right. So benevolent. A benevolent view of the word, or what I would call what's mal? A malevolent view of the word, right? As an entrepreneur, you have two choices, or as an individual, forget about entrepreneur, as an individual, you can get up every day and you can take two views of the word. You can say, you can take a benevolent view of the word, or a malevolent. The malevolent view of the word says that the word is out to get me. Right? And around every corner is trouble, and there are people trying to screw me over and trying to do things and trying to, you know. And you know what? If you have that attitude, you won't be disappointed, because that's what you get. That's exactly what you get. Listen to Joe Duffy every day, right? Sorry. If you take a benevolent view of the word, right, which entrepreneurs do, most entrepreneurs do, right? What do they say? The word is conspiring to do me good. We live in a world of bounty. We live in a world of opportunity. Think of all the things that are coming out of Corder Dojo. All these wonderful guys that are going to come out in the future and create all of these businesses, right? So those kind of so entrepreneurship in one way, guys, is very much about attitude, right? And the ones that I see, the ones that are really successful, are the ones that are very results oriented. They have a view of the world. They see an opportunity, they set goals, they take a risk, and they commit like hell, right? And they just go for it. Okay. Now let me say some warnings here, right? I'm 17, 18 years in business, and my wife said to me the other day, she tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Do you know how many hours you worked last week?" I said, "No." She said, 70. Right? And I said, "What?" Yeah, she said, "Do you remember? You did it, and you were this, and you were that." So guys, accept the fact that the average working week, it sure as hell in 9 to 5, right? Because when you close the door on Friday, or whatever time you go home, when you go in there Monday, it's still the same way, right? There isn't somebody there to fix the photocopier. There isn't somebody there to do all those kind of things. In fact, because I was a manager in a company and I had all these people to do all this kind of stuff for me. That is sure as hell ain't there. That luxury ain't there. You're the person that does it, right? 20% don't earn anything in the first 18 months. That's a stat. You need the support of family. You need the support of nearest and dearest. The upside, guys, is that you have a great opportunity, and you should really look at this. You should really say to yourself, "Do you know what? I'm taking a benevolent view of this opportunity, and say to myself, this could be the opportunity in my life to actually do something and to become what I threaten myself to become all my life." Self-employed does that. Do you understand? It gives you that great opportunity to go off and create something. There's a worldwide market in door. What a great expression recently. Geography is history. Do you get that? You can sell anywhere in the world now. There are people making loads of money, right? Sitting in their bedrooms, right? And they have drop shipping and this, that, and they've PayPal and they have all this kind of stuff, right? Because why? Because they found something somewhere that somebody was sitting down and said, "Geez, I like that." The suddenly lands on their desk and your bank account goes ching ching. How neat is that? Do you know? Is that right? Is that true? Okay. So guys, to assess yourself, you must have. So I'd like you to think about you have to have a vision, right? A vision says that one of the exercises that I'd love you to do, guys, right, even after this session today, right, is to take a blank sheet of paper and to start off by saying, by the 31st of December 2000, and we'll say 15, 3 years' time, I be, do, have, and you use that. Whatever you want to be known for, whatever you want to be doing, what activity you're going to be doing, and what you're going to have, possession-wise. It's like back from the future thinking. Do you get that? It's like kind of a vision, closing your eyes and visioning what it is I'm gonna do. Right? So, because all great entrepreneurs have that kind of vision, you must have a plan, right? I mean, if you don't have a plan, guys, and the whole concept of business planning, I know people might think it's a pain in the butt to have to go down it, but you know what? You can download business plans now from Enterprise Ireland, from the banks, from all the enterprise boards. There's a new one that was done that you can download recently from the Irish Bankers Federation, and it's all just templated, and you can and there's all Excel spreadsheets and all that kind of stuff. And if you're any good at figures and numbers, you can actually produce your business plan, right? So it isn't as if you have to make it up as you go along. You got to be a real persuader, guys. You know, you got to get out there and either persuade people to try and maybe invest in you. You know, the bank managers we keep talking about. I was in with the bank manager yesterday, and I had to. It was a bit of persuasion. Pain in my knees, I'm actually kneeling down, but anyway, that's beside the point. But anyway, you're the manager. You have to manage a whole range of things, resources. You know, your money, your products and services, your marketing, your maybe the physical resources like equipment. You might have some people that you got to manage. You have to manage maybe manage your time, which is a really key thing. Not to end up making you think of yourself. You got to be a marketer, and you got to be a product champion, and you got to. And what I would say to you guys is that if I've learned anything from the people that I see, the hundreds of people now that come across my partners on our desks, right? The people that are really successful in this, right, are the people that absolutely love what they're doing. Do you get that? So whatever you're thinking of doing in terms of your business, right, love it. Be passionate about it. Be absolutely yum. I love doing this, you know. When I was in the bank, did I get up every day? Can't wait to go in and do central bank returns and so on. No, my personality style was totally different. My personality style was very kind of on the yellow side, we'll call it, outgoing and cheery and so on. And yet I was going in doing what I'd call a kind of a blue analytical detail job, you know. Stress. Because it was a stretch between my personality type and my job. And I just happened to find, thanks to God, in the mid-90s, that I happened to find this role that I thought, you know. And the first day I went in to a business that was doing this kind of work, I just said to myself, I think I found something that I really get pleasure, you know, really out of. And once you do that, I think, guys, life becomes a lot easier. Okay? Now, do you have, therefore, guys, what it takes for self-employment, right? Do I possess the skills and talents? Can you cope with the ups and downs? Can you cope with no paycheck? You'll be dealing with customers, you'll be dealing with suppliers, you'll be dealing with staff, and you'll be dealing with long hours. They're the downsides, but the upsides, to my mind, are independence, and we'll talk about that in a second, right? So the question, are you ready now for self-employment? And you know, you might have the perfect profile. You might decide, you know what, I have all the necessary skills, you know, there's no issues that negatively impact on my business, but maybe you're not quite ready yet for the plunge. So if you don't know, guys, I suppose what your major definite purpose is in life, I would say make the finding of your major definite purpose your major definite purpose. Do you understand? It's kind of, you know, it's a great opportunity, guys, when you come to it, when you're on a program like this, or when you're learning all of these new skills, to go off and think about that. So you must ask yourself, what do you want to get from self-employment? You know, what are the risks? Because it's a big time commitment. I got to the point in my business, guys, in about 2007 when my dance card was full. I was absolutely rashered from going around the country being a one-man operation. And the way I developed my business is that I decided to go and franchise it. Well, use the franchise model. So I spent a year putting together all the stuff that was in my head, all my programs, stuck it into a manual, and then went out and I got a consultant to come in and help me to maybe look for other people who wanted to get into the consultancy world, but A, didn't know what to sell, and B, didn't know how to sell it. And that's what I was doing for the last 8 years. So you guys are, so what I would say to you is that you're a knowledge worker, right? Think about that. From now on, you need to think of yourself as was very eloquently described here a while ago, you're a knowledge worker. So you have all of these things that you can, but the question is, can you sell it, you know? And by the way, guys, can I also say to you, right, that there are so many supports out there now. I mean, trust me on this, guys. Trust me on the sunscreen, as I said, right? There are so many supports out there through enterprise boards and leader companies and, you know, agencies and so on. As I said to you, the watch this space in relation to the budget. I think there are going to be things that I'm hoping. I've heard it from 2 ministers on public, and I would say there could be some serious in it. There could be serious supports there. You got to examine your lifestyle, guys. You know, because it will change, and what risks are you going to take, right? That you know, that's very important, guys. You know.